Hi everybody, it's Gemma. Welcome back to Pampered Wolf. As you can see, I only have my eyebrows, a little bit of mascara and some concealer on underneath my eyes. I have nothing else on my face other than my normal skincare, and that is for a very, very good reason. Today we're going to be talking all about foundation and how many foundations you actually need in your makeup bag. Now at the weekend, off the back of the top 8 foundations that I filmed with my mum last week, I will link that up here if you haven't seen that already, I was asked a question by one of my subscribers, which was a great question. How many foundations do you actually need? Now, I obviously have quite a few. I just can't help myself. But how many foundations do you actually need? Well, let's answer that straight away. It's all about personal preference and confidence levels. If you are confident enough to rock that bare-faced look, then I applaud you, go for it. You need 0 foundations in your makeup bag. Absolutely none. Just go out barefaced, you will look beautiful. However, if you need that little bit of foundation to add some confidence to yourself, maybe you need to even out your skin texture, maybe you're not very confident with your skin, you maybe have a few blemishes and you want to cover those up, maybe you want to mattify your skin, maybe you want a medium coverage, maybe you want a dewy finish, then you need one foundation. One foundation. Now I hear you laughing at me because I am the person with every single foundation under the sun in the drawers behind me. But you really can make one foundation suit all purposes, and I'm going to show you how today. Also, if you've bought a foundation and found that it doesn't actually suit you, maybe it's a bit too heavy for you, maybe it goes cakey, maybe it's too matte for your skin, or you're finding it cracks because it's a little bit drying, I'm going to show you how to make that foundation work better for your skin today. Now, this is primarily for people in the UK, because in the UK, if you buy a product, you open the seal on the product and maybe you've used a little bit of that product, you can't then take it back to the shop if it doesn't work for you. In the US, I know that in a lot of stores you can actually return items once you've used them. You can't do that in the UK. So if you spent a lot of money on a high-end foundation or even a drugstore foundation, and you really don't want to throw it in the bin, you want to find a way of making that foundation work for you, I'm going to show you how to do that today. Okay, so if you're anything like me, you like 3 different types of foundation. My skin is not the most reliable of skins, it's blemish prone, and it also changes throughout the month depending on what time of the month it is for me. So depending on where I am in my cycle depends on how my skin is. I do have combination skin, but it switches quite a lot between oily combination and dry combination. It hates me. It really does. Anyway, so I like 3 different types of foundation. When my skin is slightly more oily, or maybe when I want a fuller coverage foundation, I will go for a high coverage, natural matte foundation. So something that looks quite skin-like, but is quite full coverage. But I also like a more radiant finished foundation. I like a medium coverage radiant foundation. And also in the summer months, I actually like a more sheer coverage foundation that's more like a tinted moisturizer with a little bit of coverage. So I like 3 different types of foundation. So why do I only need one? Well, the foundation that I'm going to use to show you this today is the ESTEE LAUDER Double Wear. Now, I stopped using this a while ago because this is a little bit heavy on my skin. It goes a little bit cakey around my nose area. But I do know that a lot of people buy foundations and then, I mean, this is £33.50, I believe. Maybe it's £36 in the UK now. So it's a lot of money to waste if you feel like it doesn't suit your skin anymore. Now I have quite a lot of this left. So let's see what we can do with this foundation today. This one is in the shade 2N1, by the way, which is far too dark for me, but you will be able to see the difference at least. So I'm gonna put this completely on its own on this side of my face so we can compare. So as you can see, it's a really nice foundation. It's actually not too bad a colour match for me. This has surprised me a little bit because I thought this was a lot darker than it actually is on my skin. When this dries down, it is more of a natural matte finish. At the moment, I've got full coverage. If you apply this with a sponge, you can get a medium coverage. So that's 2 ways already that you can actually wear this foundation: full coverage or a medium coverage. And I really like this. This is transfer resistant. It does not budge. It's really long wearing and it's a great foundation. But what if I wanted a more radiant foundation during the day? How could I make this work for me? So let me show you how. Okay, so this works for any foundation. You don't have to have the double wear. If you've got a matte full coverage foundation that you feel maybe is a little bit too heavy on your skin, maybe it's a little bit too matte, this trick will work for you as well, but I'm just using the double wear as an example. Because I do find, especially on my mum's skin now, this is far too heavy for her skin. So I'm just gonna get a little bit of the product and put it on the back of my hand. And then I'm going to take an illuminating Radiance balm. And the one that I'm gonna be using is by number 7. It's called Instant Illusions. It's their Rapid Radiance Balm. And I'm just gonna squirt a little bit of that also on the back of my hand. And I'm going to just mix those two together. And then let's get some on this side of my face just so you can see the difference. Adding anything to a matte foundation or any foundation will weaken the coverage, so you need to bear that in mind, which is why I always think if you've got a really high coverage foundation to begin with, it's far more universal. You can add things to it, make it a medium coverage foundation or make it a sheer coverage foundation just by adding different things to it. So let me just zoom you in on that. So this is the matte foundation. Again, it's a natural matte foundation, so the shine from your skin actually does come through on this. It's a beautiful, beautiful finish. That's just the double wear on its own. And then if you look on this side, you can see it's far, far more radiant, a lot more glowy on the skin and is more of a medium coverage. It's also a lot more hydrating because we've added a balm within the foundation, so it will look really beautiful on a more mature skin, and it will also be a more pleasant feel. It's not heavy on the skin at all. It's really lightweight and it's quite moisturizing and hydrating. So I'm just going to take that off and show you how to make this foundation into more of a tinted moisturizer. Okay, so I've taken that foundation off now, and again we're going to use the double wear foundation and transport this into more of a tinted moisturizer. The moisturizer, you can use any moisturizer that you've got to hand, but this is the number 7 Beautiful Skin Day Cream for a normal to oily skin type. And I'm just going to pop a little bit of this on the back of my hand with a little bit of the double wear as well. Also, because I don't want anything too heavy on my skin, and sometimes I find creams quite heavy, I'm also going to add in a little bit of a serum. This one is by The Ordinary and it's Matrixyl 10% plus hyaluronic acid. This will just loosen the foundation up a little bit, make it a little less thick, so it'll be a lot thinner consistency and a lot lighter on the skin. So a little bit of the moisturizing cream, and then also a little bit of serum. Okay, so I have mixed that together on the back of my hand. Just be warned that this particular process won't work for every single foundation. It's worked for the foundations that I've tried with it, but this will depend on whether your foundation that you've bought is oil-based, silicone-based, water-based. Sometimes things don't mix very well with other products, so just bear that in mind. If you've got one that starts to misbehave, that might be the reason why, but this has worked for all the foundations that I've got in my drawer, and I have a few. Have I mentioned that already? I think I have. Okay, so let's start putting this on. So this is more of a tinted moisturizer coverage, very sheer, and you can make it whatever consistency you want and whatever strength you want. This is quite a sheer coverage. This feels absolutely gorgeous on the skin. Really super hydrating and nourishing, and not heavy at all, because I've applied the serum as well as the moisturizer. Sometimes moisturizers can feel quite heavy and weighing on my skin, but because I've added the serum rather than loads of moisturizer, this feels really lightweight on my skin. So there we have it. Let me just zoom you in so you can take a quick peek at this one. Okay, so again, let me refresh your memory to what this one looks like. This is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Neat, completely on its own. Beautiful, beautiful coverage, really nice foundation. And then on this side, we've changed it into more of a tinted moisturizer. It looks really lightweight on the skin, really sheer coverage. Just evens everything out really nicely without being too heavy. So another mixing agent that you can use to make your foundation a little bit more of a medium to light coverage, whilst also adding a few benefits as a little bit of a kicker, is your regular SPF lotion that you use on a daily basis. Now, I would always apply this underneath my foundation anyway, because the likelihood of you applying the correct amount of this is remote. I mean, you need half a teaspoon of this to actually get the 50+ protection that is advertised on the bottle. And how many people put that amount on their skin, even as a standalone SPF? So I would apply this first to the skin, and then you can apply this into your foundation to loosen it up a little bit and make it more of a medium coverage, or make it more hydrating if you've chosen a hydrating SPF. It's just another way of loosening the foundation up and making it more wearable on a lot more skin types. So what if the foundation that you've bought isn't a high coverage matte foundation? What if it's a medium coverage dewy foundation or a more radiant foundation? How do you make that work for you on one of those days maybe where your skin is slightly more oily and you're needing something more matte without going out and buying another foundation? Well, I'm going to take all this off my face and we're going to look into that. Okay, so I have a clean face. The foundation that I've chosen to show you these techniques is the YSL Touche Eclat All-in-One Glow. Now, this actually featured in my top 8 foundations. It is stunning. Super, super stunning. This gives a radiant, dewy finish. It's a sheer to medium coverage, more like a tinted moisturizer slash foundation. So it does have a little bit of coverage in there, but it's also super nourishing and super hydrating. It's absolutely beautiful on the skin. But what if you're having an oily skin day and you're wanting something a little bit more matte? How do you make this work for you? Now, you're obviously not going to be able to give any more coverage when you're starting off with a sheer to medium coverage foundation. If you're adding things to it, you're actually weakening the coverage that it's going to give you. However, you can make these work a little bit better if you're having an oily skin day. Now, the couple of ways that I'm going to show you, let me just get some of this on half of my face so we can compare and contrast, and you can see the difference when we apply different products. So I'm just going to pop this on one side of my face. This is the shade B30 for anybody that wants to know. I actually think that the B20 would be a better shade match for my skin, but when I use this, it's usually in the summer and my skin's slightly deeper. Okay, so as you can see, this is a stunning, stunning foundation. It just evens everything out beautifully and gives a lovely, radiant, dewy finish. Very natural, very skin-like. But I need to make this more matte. So let me zoom you back out and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. Okay, so there are many, many primers on the market, and so many people keep on asking me which my favorite primer is. I actually haven't found an all singing, all dancing primer yet, But I always say to people, if you do have oily skin, just apply a mattifying primer just in the areas that you need it. So if it's around here, then just apply the primer around there. You don't need to apply primer all over your face. That goes the same with any pore filling primers. Just apply them where you have large pores. There's just no need to apply it everywhere else. But a lot of people think that primers are just to be put directly onto the skin. That isn't actually correct. You can use them like that, but you can also add them to your foundation. Now, schoolgirl error, I don't have a mattifying primer in my drawer. I have got a mattifying stick, but not one in a liquid. So I'm just going to be using the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer. I got a little sample of this in a box the other day. So I'm going to use this and just hope that you can see the result that we actually are trying to give. Obviously, you will get a better result if you use a mattifying primer. So I'm going to squirt a little bit of the primer on the back of my hand. And then I'm going to add some of the foundation also to that. And I'm going to mix that together. Now this completely changes the texture of the foundation. It's no longer a gel-like consistency. It's much stiffer because I've added a silicone primer to the mix. So let's get this on this side of my face and see if you can see a difference. Okay, so let me just refresh your memory what this product looked like neat. This is the Touche Eclat All-in-One Glow with nothing mixed into it. It's really beautiful, really dewy, really radiant on the skin, very fresh and skin-like. If I turn my head and show you what it looks like with a silicone primer mixed in, you will see it's a lot less dewy, a lot less dewy. And because the product was slightly thicker when I added the primer, you could actually build this one up. So it actually increased the coverage that this foundation can also give. I know I said that wasn't going to be possible, but turns out it is. So there you go. That's what it looks like with a silicone primer in there. You would get a lot better effect and a lot matter look if you used a mattifying primer. I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to demonstrate that today, but hopefully you've got a little bit of an insight into what that would actually look like. Now let's do another step. Let's see if this next step works as well as this one. Okay, so the final technique I'm going to show you for turning a radiant foundation into a more matte foundation is the powder technique. Now, I have tried adding powder into foundations. I have actually tried adding it into this foundation and it just separates the foundation. So you end up with like curds and whey from a milk product. It's pretty similar to what this ends up like. You end up with all the pigment and then all the liquid separate. So I wouldn't advise you adding powder to the actual foundation. However, you can add powder to the face before you apply the foundation, and this just makes everything stick a little bit better. So I'm going to use my Bare Minerals Precision Face Brush and I'm just going to go over the face and dust some powder over the area that I'm going to be applying the foundation. That was far too much powder. Oh yes. Okay, let's dust some of that off. Maybe don't apply that much. I mean, okay. Maybe that is a better amount. I mean, this whole room is now full of powder. Okay, right. Moving on, let's get some foundation on the face. So again, I'm just going to put a pump of the foundation on the back of my hand. Get it on the brush and tap this in place. I wouldn't advise ever swiping if you've got powder on the face because you will move the powder and you'll make the foundation look a little bit lumpy and uneven. So just tap the foundation in place and you'll find you get a more even coverage. So once you've done that, you just need to give the powder a chance to soak in some of that foundation. I'm going to zoom you in so you can see the final look. Okay, so let me just refresh your memory. Again, this is the Touche Eclat All-in-One Glow Neat on the skin with nothing mixed into it. Again, very radiant, very glowy, very natural. And on this side, we just have a more matte version of that foundation, and it will last longer throughout the day because the powder will stick it to the skin. So this is a lot more matte. It's still very natural looking. It hasn't increased the actual coverage of the foundation or weakened it in any way, but it's just still a beautiful foundation, but more matte. It looks more matte, and you can make it look even more matte by obviously adding a powder to the surface of the foundation as well as underneath it. Okay, so that is it. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please do give it a big thumbs up if you found it helpful in any way. Don't forget, I'm also on Instagram if you want to follow me on there. I do makeup videos that do not appear on YouTube, so make sure you are following me on YouTube as well as on Instagram. It's at Pampered Wolf, all lowercase, no spaces. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. There is a watermark in this corner. If you click on it, it will take you through to my homepage where you can subscribe. Love to you all. Bye.